If you're a fan of certain games in the arcade genre, maybe you probably want to remember one of Namco's actual good one of Namco's games happens to be a racing game in for the arcade cabinet. This is Ridge Racer. Ridge Racer is a racing game series developed and published for arcade systems and game home consoles, handheld game consoles, and personal computers and mobile phones. By Bandai Namco Entertainment, formerly Namco, the first game, Ridge Racer 1993, was originally released in arcades for the Namco System 22 hardware. And this is where we get to the introduction of it porting over to one of the home consoles back in the day. This being, Ridge Racer. Ridge Racer was ported over to the PlayStation 1 home console in 1994. Ridge Racer was notable for being the arcade racing video game with 3D textured map graphics, with its System 22 hardware capable of texture mapping and Gorder shading. Development took 8 months, and the game is based on a trend among Japanese car enthusiasts, which involves racing on mountain roads while drifting around corners. And the first home version was released in Japan in 1994 as a launch title for the PlayStation 1. The versions for North America and European countries were released in 1995, also a launch title for both regions. However, while an accurate conversation, its frame rates was halved to 30 frames per second, 25 for the PAL due to PlayStation hardware limitations to suit the platform's capabilities. Ridge Racer played a major role in establishing the new system and gave it an early edge over its nearest competitor, the Sega Saturn, which was considered a rival to Sega's Daytona USA. The reception for the PlayStation's Ridge Racer, alongside with the arcade reception, were very great, generally favorable and warm. High positive reception. Reviewers praised the 3D texture mapping graphics, audio, drifting mechanic, and arcade racing gameplay. However, there were a lack of artificial intelligence in a multiplayer mode. Artificial intelligence, or AI, so to speak. It was followed by an arcade update in 1994, as Ridge Racer would get a sequel titled Ridge Racer 2. Oh wow. And a fully fledged sequel, Rave Racer, in 1995. The PlayStation received a separate sequel, Ridge Racer Revolution, released in 1995 in Japan and in 1996 in North America and PAL regions. The soundtrack was remixed and released on the Namco Game Sound Express Volume 11 album. As you get started with Ridge Racer, all you have to do is to choose a course, a car, a transmission, automatic or 6-speed manual, and a song. The car specifications vary. Some have a high top speed, others have better acceleration or handling model, and some present a balance of the free. Certain cars are named after the other Namco gameplay, such as Solo Yolo, Mappy, Boscanian, Nebraska, and Xevious. The racetrack can be observed from a first-person perspective, or for the PlayStation version, a third-person perspective. Namco's Nichion controller can be used to play the game. Because Ridge Racer is an arcade-style racing game, collisions cause no damage and merely slow the player down. There is a time limit, which ends the race if counted down to 0. Honestly, I actually kind of like Ridge Racer, actually. In the PlayStation version, a mini-game of Galaxian can be played as the game loads. If won, 8 additional cards become available. Once the game has loaded, the CD is only needed to play 6 music tracks. The disc can be replaced during gameplay, although the game does not update, regardless of what disc is inserted. There will always be 6 different tracks, corresponding to the starting points of the tracks on the game disc. The first Ridge Racer series of the game had spawned to mobile phones and a console called Zeebo. I don't know who has it. I don't really know about it at all. Ridge Racer 2 as is more of an updated version of Ridge Racer than an actual sequel. The main change is the ability to play up to 8 human players. Otherwise, it has trivial changes, including the addition of an N-Race rear-view mirror and a remixed soundtrack. It was only been released in the arcade machine cabinets. During 1995, it would be getting a sequel, Rave Racer, and a home console, Ridge Racer Revolution that was already been mentioned. Rave Racer was only been just like Ridge Racer 2. It was the sequel Rave Racer is only in the arcade cabinets. During Japan, the reception for Rave Racer was very most popular. It went on to be the highest grossing dedicated arcade game of 1996 in Japan. And what a way to have this type of name be so popular and famous. Ridge Racer Revolution followed after Ridge Racer would be the next on the list. The gameplay will remain unchanged from Ridge Racer in format. The checkpoint and the time limit system remain the same. Running out of time ends the race. And passing through checkpoints grants additional time. Although the car drifting is more like Ridge Racer 2. The player drives using automatic transmission or manual transmission. Ridge Racer Revolution supports Namco's Agnicon controller. I'm sorry if I pronounced that name wrong. The game consists of 3 courses: Novice, Intermediate, also called Advanced, and Expert, each having different sections opened. Like the first Ridge Racer, the player normally starts with just 4 cars. The remaining 8 are selectable on the winning mini game before the title screen. The mini game is Galaga 88 instead of the original game's Galaxian. They are mostly unchanged. Their names, certain cars, are named after each Namco titles, like the first game. Ridge Racer Revolution also features 2 hit modes: Drift Contest and Pretty Racer, also known as Buggy Mode. The reception was really warm, actually, scoring a 95 out of 100 on Computer and Video Games publications. GameSpot gave it a 5.9 out of 10. And the rest, either they are pleased or not pleased. Following this, we also got R4, Ridge Racer Type 4. And right after we get Ridge Racer 64 and Ridge Racer V. Ridge Racer Type 4, without the R4 prefix in PAL territories, would be a 1998 racing game developed and published by Namco themselves. Much like we already know what Ridge Racer Type 4 is. an arcade-style racing game with a strong emphasis on power sliding, drifting around corners. Vehicles use one of one of the two styles of power sliding depending on the make of the car or on the make of the car they select. Drift and grip. Drift cars require players to tap the brake while turning the brake into a smooth power slide, while grip cars require players to alternate between brakes and gas while turning to power slide. Vehicles are earned by playing through the game's Grand Prix mode. Yeah, just like Mario. Yeah, just like Mario Kart, or Hot Wheels Burning Rubber, and such that has the obligatory Grand Prix mode. Oh, you have to unlock certain cars via the Grand Prix mode. Yes, I know Hot Wheels Burning Rubber didn't exist till 2001, and we already know that Mario Kart came out during the 90s, and that was Super Mario Kart. So so who cares? So who cares? The development who and the staff members who had previously worked on the original Ridge Racer had started development of on it. Development staff members committed it that much waste was removed in order to make grid shading and high polygon counts possible, similarly to the critically acclaimed Gran Turismo at the time. Ridge Racer Type 4 made use of SCE's performance and nicer deck kit. The team initially didn't expect to achieve all graphical advances, but eventually succeeded in doing them, and added additional features during development. Ace Combat 2 was used by the art director for inspiration regarding the sky effects in the game. The opening movie, featuring series mascot Rakio Neski, I'm sorry if I pronounced her last name wrong, took over 6 months to make, including planning. There's also a lot of some good music over there. I don't know if they are good or bad. The reception for the game was generally favorable reviews according to Metacritic, scoring an 88 out of 100. Some people of GameSpot and Next Generation gave positive reviews to the game. I love it. It was a commercial success in Japan and European territories. In United States and Japan, 1,057,091 units were sold. How did this happen? Good success. Ridge Racer ended up getting spawned and ended up getting a Nintendo 64 port, alongside with a remade a port for the Nintendo DS. Yes. Yeah, that's right. We'll get more on the DS in the moment. Oh wait, honestly, this is. Oh wait, no wait. This is just basically the same game. So let's just skip it. The reception for the N64 version of Ridge Racer was favorable. The DS remake was mixed. Moving on, we get to the year of 2000. October 26th, 2000 would see the PlayStation 2 get a Ridge Racer game called Ridge Racer V, or Ridge Racer 5 to be exact. The fifth main title of the Ridge Racer series, following Ridge Racer 4 or Type 4. And the only one to be released on the PlayStation 2, excluding the spin-off R Racing Evolution. Moving away from Type 4's approach, Ridge Racer 5 streamlined back to a simple racer without a story mode, set in a fictional Ridge City based on circuits and around the very first course introduced in Ridge Racer. Its licensed soundtrack also returns to a heavier sound, including featuring Boom Boom Satellites and and Mi Bandai, I guess, alongside Namco's composer. The game also introduces a new Race Queen mascot, which replaced the old mascot. Ifumikia. I'm sorry if I pronounced the name wrong. I'm sorry. The the fifth installment of Ridge Racer was the biggest highlight of the PlayStation 2's original March 2000 launch. It received positive reception for its visuals, speedy driving experience, but there was a flaw that it fell under expectations. The console's graphical assumptions and divided critics for some elements for its lack of content compared to its predecessor, and noticeable jaggies. But in retrospect, it has been considered to be the greatest arcade-style racers of all time, with praise given to its handling, environments, and challenge. The reception was favorable, scoring a 78 out of 100 from Metacritic. We get to 2003 that there was a spin-off title. Oh, I guess. This being R Racing Evolution, which is a spin-off of the Ridge Racer series, released over 3 years after the fifth installment of Ridge Racer. Unlike the main series, it's more of a simulator or simulation arcade racer, and used licensed race cars rather than fictional vehicles. The game centers around the character Reina Haini in her career as a professional racing driver, and her rivalry with veteran driver Gina Calvi, and a cinematic and story-driven plot. It did not review well, scoring a 67 to 66 out of 100 on GameCube, PS2, and Xbox. I just need to know, what was Namco even doing at that point? In 2004, the PlayStation Portable has seen getting a Ridge Racer game of its own, titled just Ridge Racer. I should say Ridge Racer PSP. It's basically the same, as it would feature the series mascot alongside for most of video opening, featuring the mascot Rakio Nagase, marking her return following her absence from Ridge Racer 5. Available in the game is a fully playable version of the 1980 Namco arcade game Rally X, which appears when the game initially loads up. That Metacritic gave it a good reception. Ridge Racer DS spawned a remake in 2004, and that was alongside with the N64 or that time, and it was mixed. We already know what it is. In 2005, prior to the Xbox's launch, as part of the launch title for the Xbox, Ridge Racer 6 was released, and it was an Xbox 360 exclusive. That's right, a big launch title for the Xbox 360. It would be the last Ridge Racer game made by Namco as an independent company, as they would merge with Bandai's video game division to form Namco Bandai Games. Oh yeah, Oh yeah, I do remember what happened. I did find out what happened to Bandai, as they were famous for their toys or other sorts. But they later been merged with Namco. Oh, I'm not surprised. So I ain't surprised. Much like much the gameplay, like Ridge Racer titles, the oh sweet, it just still focuses on gameplay, on finishing first out of 14, and in numerous 3-lap races across several tracks and numerous cars. In most races, the player can earn up to 3 nitro boosts by successfully drifting around corners without crashing, which can be used to give the player a shot burst speed. Some races are labeled as no nitrous, which prevents the player from earning any nitrous during the race, though the player can optionally enable nitrous if the player wins with this option. The race is considered complete, but noted for breaking the no nitrous rule. Some races are also duels between the player and the boss opponent, who is usually equipped with a much better car than the player can select from. Ridge Racer 6 includes a career mode, World Explorer, a branch tree arrangement of races, in which the player can only attempt races next to a race that has already been successfully been completed. Also, we get to see some special machines. Yes, this iteration goes beyond cars to feature other outlandish vehicles as well, called super machines in the game. These include a hovercraft, a tripod supercar, or a Hemio 490B, and an oversized SUV that can be very loud, the Denver Bass Cruiser. The game, as with all games in the Ridge Racer series, contains copious numbers of reference to other Namco games, such as Pac-Man and an Ace Combat. There are 30 new circuits available, including Surfside Resort and Harborline 7765. There are also 130 cars, including 10 special cars. And there's also downloadable content via Microsoft's Xbox Live service. The Riccio Negase would still be the mascot for right now. Oh, and also as for music, Ridge Racer 6 is the second game after Ridge Racer PSP to feature composers from both older and newer games, sound teams. The game just received average reviews. Metacritic giving it a 74 out of 100. In 2006, Bandai Namco Games, has released another arcade-style racing video game called Ridge Racer 7, the 7th installment in the Ridge Racer series for consoles. Ridge Racer 7 is essentially the PlayStation exclusive version of the Xbox 360 exclusive Ridge Racer 6, but with even more content. The 7th installment became a launch title for the PlayStation 3, as it was released and was born in 2006. The game would have around 40 cars, which of many are from Ridge Racer 6 and PSP. There are also 22 courses available in forward, reverse, and mirrored. The game runs at 1080p native resolution and 60 frames per second. It also features a Dolby Digital 5.1 surround sound, and a free online gameplay via the PlayStation Network. Like many other Ridge Racer games, it features a full motion video opening that stars Riccio Negase. There was a patch. A patch was released, made available in 2010 of October, titled Ridge Racer 7 3D license version that enables Ridge Racer 7 that could be played in 3D. Following this, Bugbear developed the drastically different Ridge Racer, which we'll get to that later. Alongside with that, Ridge Racer 2 would be released for the PlayStation Portable. It is a follow-up to the PSP launch title, Ridge Racer PSP. And basic gameplay is identical to its predecessor, but Ridge Racer 2 PSP adds more extra content with additional tracks recycled from older titles of the series, as well as 2 game modes called Duel and Survivor. It was made as of December 2022. Ridge Racer 2 was made worldwide to be downloaded on PS4 and 5 as part of the PlayStation Plus premium subscription service. However, as of August of 2023 last year, a standalone purchasable title was released. This marked the first time that the game was released in North America. The game is pretty much the same. However, the game would feature a total of 62 fictional cars, referred to as machines. 7 fictional manufacturers are mentioned: Kameta, Age, Danver, Renade, Osunio, Hinmo, and Soldat. And there are the staple throughout the Ridge Racer series. The full complement of cars is available to the player after completing 4 tours, consisting of 60 races each, of increasing difficulty levels: Basic, Pro, Extreme, and Max. And also several mini games. In addition to newer cars, 2 PSP features prizes that are unlocked after the competition of a tour, such as opening movies of previous Ridge Racer titles and E3 demo presentations. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you. Previous Ridge Racer titles in the early days had a timer countdown, which would end the race. But by later, that mechanic was stripped. Yeah, I believe it's completely a disappoint. It would be a disappointment if we end the race with if the timer runs down. Also, the checkpoint part was also been removed. The nitrous would still be the nitrous in Ridge Racer 2 PSP would remain relatively the same. Notable is also the nitro boost system from the previous game, which works in the same manner as before. The player has a nitrous gauge made up of 3 nitrous tanks. There's also a lot of soundtracks too. No older soundtracks though. Like Ridge Racer 6 and 7, I guess it received just average reviews. No mixed or average reviews. Ridge Racer 2 PSP was still praised for the same points as the previous title, but the reviewers were disappointed that the game is a little different from it. The game runs on the same graphical engine and the visuals look almost exactly the same, with notable changes being additional courses. But at least it's still enjoyable, to say the least. 2 years later, in 2009, Ridge Racer Accelerated came to the iOS and Android. The core aspect of the entire Ridge Racer series is drift racing. That is traditional lap race against opponents with additional added twists of intentionally oversteering and sliding the car through sharp turns and corners, known as drifting, which could earn the player several bonuses during a race. The reception was mixed and did not review well. In 2010, the Ridge Racer Drift would be released after Accelerated. In 2011, Ridge Racer 3D was released. Ridge Racer 3D would be an arcade-style racing video game for the Nintendo 3DS, being one of the 3DS launch titles, landing in 2011 of March. It came in North America on my ninth birthday of all things. Yes, my ninth birthday that time. It was released on the same day as I turned 11 years old. I cannot. I mean, I could not believe what I just witnessed. The game was released on my ninth birthday. I mean, if I had a 3DS, that means I would have been playing the hell out of Ridge Racer 3D. But alas, I only had a 3DS Lite or a DSi. A, I didn't get a 3DS until Christmas of 2017. That was exactly when I got some games for the 3DS. No, they're just basically standard DS games. I didn't get an actual 3DS game or a few sent by until the following year of 2018 when I got like Minecraft and Resident Evil the Mercenaries 3D. Resident Evil the Mercenaries 3D was also one of the 3DS launch titles. I sampled a gameplay. I just sampled a gameplay about Ridge Racer 3D, and to my surprise, the soundtracks were ripped from older Ridge Racer games. Yeah, that's right. The background music was produced by Namco Bandai's MBGI unit. It also the soundtrack design was simply ripped from older Ridge Racer games, and shoving them all together into the 3DS. The game would introduce a drift button, specifically designed for beginners to the Ridge Racer series, and allows them to drift easily using one button to press. There are two main gameplay types, single player and versus. Versus is a multiplayer mode which allows the ability to play up against other players via a wireless connection, and standard race, one make race, and team battle by either hosting or joining a race using the Nintendo 3DS local play. Other minor gameplay types included records, allowing players to view their record achieved in single player, and check local rank games based on records acquired from friends or via a street pass. AV player, allowing to watch replays of past races while listening to music of choice. Options and the garage, which allow you to modify cars the player has acquired. To unlock certain cars, you have to play the Grand Prix mode, competing in a series of races in order to win new cars and nitro kits, or to make them available for purchase. Quick Tour, which is basically playing in a series of races automatically generated from the player's preference. This is just your basic arcade mode, I guess. Playtime, a timer of 3 to 30 minutes multiplied by 3 minutes. Course type, recommended drift or high speed. Race category, racing from 4 different categories to race on. A standard race, selecting a car on the track in order to race against other 7 opponents. While one make race is selecting the track and race against over 7 opponents using the same machine. Time attack is a racing around the track as fast as possible for free laps in order to achieve the fastest time or beat a ghost, while Street Pass duel races against the ghosts of other players acquired via a Street Pass. Yes. The game was announced by Bandai Namco or Namco Bandai for Nintendo's upcoming new system at E3 2010. The game was designed to take advantage of the device's screen's 3D stereo view. It was a commercial success with and it was generally favorable, receiving a lot of good favorable reviews. Critics agreed that 3D was one of the best launch titles for the console. Mind me to tell you that Ridge Racer 3D was released on the year where Disney Pixar's Cars 3 and NASCAR Unleashed, both developed by Firebrand Games, were released. Alongside with Resident Evil Revelations and Resident Evil The Mercenaries 3D, which both of which were released by Capcom, who were behind the Resident Evil series. Yes, yes. I looked up one of the 3DS launch titles on, and it turns out that the game's launch titles are also more than we actually think. And there was also Mario Kart 7, also known as Mario Kart 3DS. There were also launch titles for the Nintendo 3DS. This would include Asphalt 3D, Busted Move Universe, Combats of Giants, Dinosaurs 3D, Lego Star Wars 3, The Clone Wars, Madden NFL Football, shocking, Nintendogs Plus Cats, Pilot Wings Resort, Pro Evolution Soccer 2011 3D, Professor Layton and the Miracle Mask, Rayman 3D, Samurai Warriors Chronicles, The Sims 3. Who asked for Sims 3 to be on the Nintendo 3DS? Seriously? How could it release there? And I'm just knowing that Maxis used the Criterion's renderware engine for Sims 3 on the main home consoles, actually, alongside their own Sims 3 engine. Okay, so no wonder. Okay. So, alright, just don't know what really was going on. And oh boy, did Sims 3 launched on the same day as Ridge Racer 3D? My 9th birthday of all things. What? Seriously? What a surprise. How on earth did the Nintendo 3DS launch? How on earth did how on earth did some games go and release on my own birthday? I just don't know. I'm completely speechless. I mean, how on earth can one of the games be released on my 9th birthday of all things? Moving on, we got Steel Driver, Super Monkey Ball 3D, Super Street Fighter 6 3D edition, Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Shadow Wars, and Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell 3D. Those are the only launch titles, one of which are not seen in North America. This would include Professor Layton and the Miracle Mask, and Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell 3D. As they're only in Australia or European territories. What a surprise! The reception. I actually bought this game. I actually ordered the game from Friday, and I actually played it to see if it's fun. And to my surprise, I instantly picked it up and seriously had no trouble with it. However, the drifting mechanic, I feel it very weird to say the least. But at least I got past the drifting controls. Ridge Racer 3D felt very alright, to say the least. It's still pretty great. And also, I looked at the car roster, and I told some people on YouTube that I was going to buy it for the original hardware. I know you're gonna ask me, if you're playing it on the original hardware, then why couldn't you emulate it? Really? Seriously? Like NASCAR Unleashed, just like what I said in NASCAR Unleashed, I I don't have the requirements to run 3DS games on Sertra. What do you mean? You have you have a PC, you have an iPad or something? Why can't you just emulate it? Vulkan is required, and my computer does not have Vulkan. Then why couldn't you update your graphics drivers? Well, I did try and do that, but unfortunately they failed. And what do you mean by failed? I mean they didn't work. It did not work. I mean then why can't you just go to Nvidia? Nvidia is the best graphics driver for games in 60 frames per second and in 4K. The problem is yes, guys, Nvidia is. I see that Nvidia is actually very useful and great and reliable. However, sadly, I'm not able to get Nvidia because one of the few things. Nvidia, when I try to upgrade my graphics driver to Nvidia, it doesn't work. I'm trying numerous attempts to try to find a legit tutorial on how to fix it, but I don't know which one. To someone who has an Nvidia graphics card or something, please guide me on how to fix this type of issue where I need to update my graphics driver so I could get to my games that are running at 60 frames per second and then get on with it. I mean, somebody please guide me. It will be much very appreciated because honestly, with my graphics driver is very outdated, and I just can believe that how old it is. Mind me to tell you that my graphics card is an Intel family HD graphics card. Any type of game that I would run via emulation will lag or run very slowly because I don't have a 60 frames per second graphics. This is the reason why you've been watching my videos that include the Dolphin emulator fast forwarding in the games I just recorded to match up to run a little bit more smooth, better, and much more great. Okay, now you guys see why my Need for Speed Nitro videos have been sounding so I know a lot of people are actually do like part of my videos about Need for Speed Nitro, but nobody doesn't understand why the gameplay of the Need for Speed Nitro videos I make runs very bad and slow. Oh, well, that's because I don't have a good graphics card. What more can you want? What other questions do you guys want me to answer? Obviously, topic wise, we're way off topic. Let's get back to the Ridge Racer series. Following Ridge Racer 3D comes Ridge Racer PlayStation Vita. That's right. Yeah. Instead of Namco Bandai Games developing it, a little company from Japan called Celius Inc. developed Ridge Racer Vita. It will be a 2011 racing video game, which will be part of the launch title for the PlayStation Vita. Originally been released on December 17th, 2011 in Japan and internationally in February 2012, it is the fifth handheld game in the Ridge Racer series, and the first game on a Sony platform since 2006 Ridge Racer 2 PSP. It was the only game developed by Celius Inc. The game continues the Ridge Racer tradition of arcade racing and supports single-player as well as local multiplayer or Wi-Fi multiplayer games. Upon release, the game has mostly been panned and with by video game critics due to lack of a career mode and particularly lack of content, with much of it locked as part of downloadable content. And it did not review well. The sentiment that would start This sentiment would start the big decline to the Ridge Racer series. In 2012, Namco Bandai Games hired Bugbear Entertainment to create Ridge Racer Unbounded. Released on March 27, 2012, which was my 10th birthday at the time. Yes, it was released on the same day as I turned 10 on my birthday. Can you not believe it? First we had Ridge Racer 3D releasing on my 9th birthday in 2011. Now we get to Ridge Racer Unbounded releasing on the same day as I turned 10 at that time. Dang. I just didn't really think, I didn't really know or think that it would come on the same day as when I turned 10. What a coincidence. Anyway, Ridge Racer Unbounded, according to a lot of people, is a huge disappointment and a disgrace to the Ridge Racer title series. Unbounded marks a departure from the traditional Ridge Racer drifting style and moved to a more vehicular combat-oriented and destructive series style. Similar to Burnout and Split Second, as well as implementing customizations, the game received average reviews. The gameplay would take place in a fictional city called Shafter Bay. Also, a lot of people did not like Ridge Racer Unbounded because it's similar to Burnout, where it has this vehicular combat style and it's also very poor to take down your opponents. What do you mean by that? Well, Gamer Alex, who I started watching, has released some actual information on what went wrong with Ridge Racer Unbounded. If you want a link to his video, I'll link it in the video description or in pinned comment down below. He listed a lot of things that went wrong with Ridge Racer Unbounded. First, the game was not supposed to have the Ridge Racer name, as it's a complete total departure from the series. And just like what some people said, it's basically a Burnout wannabe, and it's not even close to Ridge Racer at all. It's more closer to Burnout, and also there's also a lot of things that you don't even want to see, or you do not like this, but it's a lot of people felt very betrayed. These were the Ridge Racer fans. The Ridge Racer fans felt very betrayed by Unbounded. Now, as stated, Namco turned to flat-out dev prototype into Ridge Racer Unbounded, Bugbear Entertainment. So Namco noticed the recent commercial failures from both Split Second and Blur. Like Kiso said, addressing Unbounded's chart performance, it doesn't seem to be anything to do with the game's quality. It's so hard to get to a single new IP out of the gate. Like Kiso concluded, the reason enough to want the Ridge Racer moniker behind its new game, Namco wanted to benefit from the impact of having the Ridge Racer name. That no shit, Sherlock, it did not do well. Seriously, right now, all is over. You know, oh, Ridge Racer fans feel betrayed as they were waiting for as they received a spinoff after 6 years, according to Gamer Alex. After waiting for a proper sequel, we get this. Also, Gamer Alex did say something and mention about Split Second and Blur. Gamer Alex has mentioned the commercial failures of Split Second and Blur had little to do with them being new IPs. Mainly it's because they've been released apart from each other. Split Second, who was created by what was supposed to be the developer Climax Studios, who later was acquired by Disney and became BlackRock Studio, who became defunct, released Split Second on May 18th, 2010. While Bizarre Creations, who was owned by Activision, I think, released Blur on May 25th, 2010. However, both of those games were released on the same month as Mod Nation Racers, Red Dead Redemption, Alan Wake, Inc., and Prince of Persia. Seriously, both racing games. The reason why they fail is because both of them flew under the radar, because they released on a terrible time as the 4 games have been released. What a bad decision. Sadly, it was a bad choice to give this game the Ridge Racer name. And it hurt its chances in the marketplace. This also affected the game's design as certain things were added in honor and to appeal to Ridge Racer fans. On the top of all the terrible decisions, made Unbounded a lackluster racing game. And it doesn't even look like a shock to look at. There's also a huge problem with it. Remember with all the track designs and the track builder on Hot Wheels Unleashed? Well, for one of the most specific, whatever the hell reason for Bugware or Namco was even thinking at this point, Unbounded introduced us the track editor builder, which means you could create your own tracks. But unfortunately, they look pretty familiar as they're from the career mode. So honestly, it's a completely pointless waste of time, in my honest opinion. Seriously, the track pieces are literally from career mode, called the Unbounded, whatever the hell you want to call it, and it's not even a good shot to look at. I bought Ridge Racer Unbounded to see if I could choke down on this game, and it turns out I literally choked down on this game, and to my surprise, it was fun at first, but given the fact that it has a lot of vehicles, and it only has a Ridge Racer signature car, which was added in there, but the rest of the features are actually fragged. In addition, to have a vehicular combat game to succeed, it must be very fun. Unbounded did the opposite, and it completely sucked. Ridge Racer Unbounded's car combat mechanic physics is pretty horrible. It's not like Burnout at all. It doesn't look like it's not like Burnout where you had to shunt or smash into other opponents where they crash into walls or into traffic and when they get wiped out and such. The the player has to whittle down the car's health in order to take them down. There's only, however, you can take them out. You can take them down and wipe them out if you use the boost mechanic. You can usually give them a little tap to perform the takedown, even from the full health. Plus, if you do hit a racer while they're also boosting, this will cause the physics to completely go crazy and go out like that, meaning that you've been taken down yourself, or the fact that you've been fragged. Yeah, a frag means a takedown. Meaning you were taken down or you've been fragged. Also, another problem with the takedown mechanic in Unbounded is that the takedown camera takes too long though. It's optional to press the A button to skip it. Or keyboard button in order to skip the takedown camera, which is a good thing. A lot, honestly, Gamer Alex is retrospective that Ridge Racer Unbounded, its attempt to capture the burnout side of vehicular combat and it was a failure. And not only that, its car combat was terrible as well. And also their sense of speed is terrible. At least it's very terrible. It's really terrible as well. It's not even a good shot to look at. The boost mechanic is terrible as well. I mean, why is the boosting system take, I don't know, 4 or 2 seconds to drain out? It just didn't not make much more sense to me. The drifting mechanic is embarrassing. It's an embarrassment, and it's so awkward to look at. And I'm just gonna humiliate this drifting mechanic. Hey, this drift mechanic is terrible. My only suggestion to myself is to just slow down using the brake button, and then be very careful when going around the corners, or else I'll crash. One thing I do like from Unbounded is that the object physics, even though they're disappointing, but you could go many through them like they're made of paper. That's the only thing, and you don't lose no speed though, which means you need to have boost and require to do it. Honestly, I would crash into certain types of things. A gas station and other sorts, like they're made of paper, and also there's also some simple target buildings where you have to puncture through them, like your Sonic the Hedgehog has, who has punctured a ship belonging to Dr. Eggman, or puncturing parts of Eggman's island base. Actually, it's actually pretty cool. But most of the driving, but the car combat, the driving physics, most of them are terrible. I mean, who on earth asked for this? If I gotta be honest, if I was a Ridge Racer fanboy, I would ask Namco for this. I would be asking Namco for a sequel, actually, an actual sequel, not the damn Ridge Racer Unbounded. Ridge Racer Unbounded, despite the only parts of a project that was intact, like going through things that are made out of paper and such, and I like the car roster and such, but honestly, the AI alongside with certain issues going on, it's just so terrible to say the least. I remember I tried out Ridge Racer Unbounded and see if I can try and beat the game, but it turns out I am not going to beat that game because it's too difficult. Also, the AI is pretty terrible. Probably because of the rubber banding, and also the fact that they can try when they hit you, meaning that you've been taken down, and you have to give them a chance to take revenge. Actually, I don't like this. Seriously, Namco, if you wanted to receive another spin-off for Ridge Racer, why couldn't you make Ridge Racer Unbounded a much more different game, to say the least? That could have been a much bigger that could have been solved. But instead, why did you just give it the Ridge Racer name? That it just did not make no sense. This was a this caused the game to be a total failure despite getting good reviews. I mean, average reviews to say the least. But everyone on Steam, and God knows a lot of people didn't like Unbounded, is because it's a complete total departure from the series. It's just disappointing. After Unbounded's poor reception and failure in 2013, and the Ridge Racer franchise still chugs on as it gotten another mobile game called Ridge Racer Slipstream, which was generally favorable, actually, given a 76 out of 100. But what happened next? In 2016, Ridge Racer Draw and Drift came into play. Yeah, they hadn't been releasing after Draw and Drift. Ridge Racer has stopped, actually. It has not been spun in any video games at all since then. It's since gone quiet. Bandai Namco never touched the Ridge Racer series again after the failure of the Ridge Racer Unbounded series. The last mainline title was terrible. Ridge Racer has never gotten a video game at all since 2012. The series has since gone quiet. Seriously. I mean, even though Ridge Racer today, even though it's still great, and it's very nice to see that everybody's, like, some of them are talking about Ridge Racer, but I do wish for Ridge Racer to get a grand return. But sadly, though, it will never happen. And as Ridge Racer just remains a big piece of memory after Unbounded's failure. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you remember Ridge Racer as a kid? What iteration of Ridge Racer were you into back in the day? Thank you guys all for watching, and until next time, stay tuned.